For the next project, I'm going to do this avenue of beech trees, which is going to be in autumn. I've prepared the sketch and put on some masking fluid. I'm now going to use some masking fluid applied with a sponge. This is where the leaves are going to be in front of the main tree trunk. So I want these nice and light and sunlit. And we just let that dry off. Right, then move into the painting. Now this only happens once the masking fluid is dry. Start with a light colour. This is cadmium yellow with maybe just a hint of yellow ochre. Then with some burnt sienna. Then back to a lighter colour with some cadmium yellow and burnt sienna. Right, so we just block in the colours using this big brush, plenty of textures, and a little bit darker in here. So we use some burnt sienna and some burnt umber, a little bit of midnight green, and going back to some burnt sienna, burnt umber in there. Now in here I'm going to use some shadow and some raw sienna. Going into the light area again, but this time with some burnt sienna and a little bit of burnt umber. Because it's now dry, we can stipple over the lighter colours without fear of it dissolving into the background colour. Right, and with that same colour, then just come down here in between the trees. A little bit of texture in the foreground. A bit more texture up there. And again, let it dry off. And move down to the verge of the road. We use a piece of paper, change the brush to a smaller stippling brush. Use the piece of paper as a mask. And start to stipple the textures on the grass verge. Like that. This is some cobalt blue, and just stipple into the far distance here where it becomes a little bit hazy, blends into that colour there. Wash the brush out, pick up a light colour. This is going to be some yellow ochre, and just put in some colour into that field at the back of that fence. In the same colour this side. Some country olive, some burnt umber. And darken the foreground. Like that. And while that's drying off, just wash some colour into the road. I'm going to start with some cobalt blue and a little bit of shadow. So with a light wash first, paint that in like that. As it gets closer to us, it might be just a little bit stronger in colour. That goes right out of the bottom of the painting. Changing the brush to Van Gogh. Start to put some textures into the foreground. So this is burnt umber with some shadow. And flick up like that. And between the trees, just make that fairly dark. I think we've covered most of the painting with paint, apart from the main tree trunks. We'll start with the large detail brush. Plenty of country olive and some burnt umber. A very, very green colour with just a hint of brown. And paint the main tree trunk in like that. Go over the masking fluid. Just a little bit lighter now. large branch here. Put a few smaller branches in. Then we move on to the tree further back. Again, a dark colour. Then dilute it just a touch. Paint in the next tree further up the lane. A few branches in. Then we move over to the other side of the road. Then with a darker mix of the same colour, while it's still slightly wet, put in a darker shade going down there. We then put in some detail. This is the fence on the other side of the road. So with a dark colour, which is burnt umber with some country olive, and the uprights, and the same with this fence, this side of the tree. With that same dark colour, just the hint of a few trees in the background there.